What is up, everybody? 3 Elixir tier list is here. Let's just break down all the minis and where they rank. Coming in at number 10, the worst 3-cost mini inside of the game right now, we have the Valkyrie. The pros of the Valkyrie is that she is a strong anti-heal. If there's some battle healers and healing rangers that are healing up minis that you need to stop, 66% heal cut from the Valkyrie will be your answer. Unfortunately, right now there isn't too many of those healing minis in the meta, and that's kind of why she is struggling. The pros also are it does extra damage to shields. Doing extra damage to shields is very, very important, but we don't see that many Grand Wardens, and we see a very diverse hero pool. If we see a lot of Grand Warden and Shield Main in play, I feel like that would make the Valkyrie very, very high on this list. Unfortunately, there just is not right now. Cons of the Valkyrie are right now, there isn't a lot of Grand Warden, and also without the Royal Ghost, it's really hard to hit more than one mini at a time, and there's very little healing in the meta. The Royal Ghost really powered up the Valkyrie, allowing her to do extra damage to minis, allowing the minis to have to walk past the Valkyrie. Without the Royal Ghost being in the meta, the Valkyrie just struggles. Next up at number 9, we have the Golden Giant. The pros of the Golden Giant are a strong tank in the front lines. It's a very beefy tank. It has a lot of HP. It heals for a lot, and it is very, very strong in the right scenarios. The cons of the Golden Giant are the reason why the Golden Giant is rank 9 on our list, is it has energy which allows the Bandit to chain. Right now, the Bandit is everywhere inside of the meta, and with the Golden Giant having energy, it just zaps it from the Golden Giant and then it continues to chain, making the Golden Giant right now kind of useless in the game. At number 8, we have the Swordsman. The pros of the Swordsman is it has a strong ability that does a lot of damage. If you are able to do your ability and clear out mini tanks or tanks of your opponents, it does a lot of damage to Pekkas, to Golden Giants, to pretty much everything. The only problem with the Swordsman is the Pekka just almost one-shots it, so you can't really get close. You have to have another tank to tank for the Swordsman, and then you kind of have like 2 mini tanks that are just like in an awkward scenario where it doesn't clear out the Pekka. Then all of a sudden you're losing 2 to 3 minis, just sacrificing to the opponent's Pekka, and he still has other minis that you have to deal with. Right now, the Swordsman really isn't played too well with the Wave Master because the Wave Master is just throwing over bandits, so Swordsman loses that power as well. The cons of the Swordsman right now are the Ice Wizard is everywhere, making it very hard for the Swordsman to do any damage at all. The super slow from the Ice Wizard really prevents the Swordsman from stacking up the ability with the energy and then continuing to chain. If it misses the chain on the first one with an Ice Wizard actually hitting it, it just won't even get off the second super, and it really won't even maybe get off the first super, and it doesn't really do much. It doesn't do enough damage is the super to chain. So the super does not do enough damage to chain here, and that's going to cause some awkward scenarios for the Swordsman. It doesn't do enough damage to the Pekka to be able to take it down, and there's usually another tank in there that will soak the damage as well, and sometimes it just never even gets off a chain. Coming in at number 7, we have the Musketeer. The pro of the Musketeer is a long stun and a pushback from the front line tanks, repositioning them. This is really strong and very powerful, especially when you're playing versus a Shield Maiden, when you're playing versus a Wave Master, or playing versus a Barbarian King, a Monk, that you need to just knock back and take care of business. Unfortunately, right now, the Musketeer, there isn't really very many Monks. There really isn't very many Barbarian Kings or Shield Maidens in the meta for the Musketeer to really strive. The cons of the Musketeer are it has energy in a bandit meta. Unfortunately for the Musketeer, it has energy. The bandit is everywhere. The bandit zaps the energy from the Musketeer, and then the Musketeer kind of is useless, and it's really in an awkward spot because without energy, the Musketeer can't do anything. It doesn't do enough damage, and without the super knocking back 1 to 2 minis, stunning them forever, it really never picks up enough value. And right now, unfortunately for the Musketeer, it just is not in a great spot. Coming in at number 6, we have the Healing Ranger. Pros of the Healing Ranger are that it can heal and keep up frontline tanks longer. What does this mean? Well, if you have Pekkas, if you have, a bandit, if you have a miner in the backline that's taking some damage, the Healing Ranger can heal it up, and that could be the difference between a win or a loss, especially in some matches. Also, it makes your minis unstoppable, which is very, very important. There's a lot of stuns right now in the meta. With the unstoppability, it really can help you win a Clash mini match. The cons of the Healing Ranger are the minis with energy right now are struggling with the bandit being everywhere. It's kind of the story with a lot of these 3-cost minis. A lot of them have energy, and with the bandit being everywhere, the Healing Ranger just is not able to continue to chain off heals, continue to chain off the unstoppable, and continue to really put the healing on your minis that you want. It really barely gets off one heal, if that, right now, and unfortunately, if you're going to dump so much elixir into the Healing Ranger, it's still only going to get off one heal no matter what, and it kind of just feels lackluster right now in the current meta. Coming in at number 5, we have the Mini Pekka. The Mini Pekka has pros. It has a strong base stats, and it has Dissipate. Dissipate can completely change the course of the game, and the strong base stats of the Mini Pekka make it very, very strong, especially when you 3-star it. The cons, though, however, of the Mini Pekka are Dissipate getting nerfed really hurt its ability to take over a match. It really only does 1 Dissipate, 2 melee minis, as when you hit a melee mini, it gains 1 energy, so you're taking away 2, so the net gain is only 1 Dissipate taken from the opposition's melee mini. This is actually kind of insane for the Mini Pekka. The nerf right there actually really hurt the Mini Pekka, and I'm actually surprised that the Mini Pekka got completely taken out of the meta from this one little change. I would like to see it kind of back in the meta with 3 Dissipate, just because we need a mini inside of Clash Mini that has a Dissipate. Coming in at number 4, we have the Giant Skeleton. Pros of the Giant Skeleton has a stun on being KO'd. This is very, very important because a 0-star Giant Skeleton can shut down a monk, can really shut down, a lot of other minis as well. Can shut down a Pekka before it gains unstoppable. The stun is absolutely massive for just a 3 elixir cost. The stun can also be upgraded to do a lot of damage and stun enemies longer. This is actually very, very crucial for the Giant Skeleton, because with the stun being able to be forever, it really makes it very easy for you to be able to stun your opponent, put every other mini in your backline, even put the Giant Skeleton maybe a little bit further back there, even on some invisibility tile plays that you can play if there's an invisibility tile in the front lines. It really does a lot of damage and can completely win you a match if placed correctly. Cons of the Giant Skeleton are sometimes the bomb misses or just hits one enemy troop, making the 3 elixir cost hard to justify. Most of the time, if you're playing a Giant Skeleton, you're going to want to upgrade at least 1, so that's going to be 6 elixir. And if you only hit 1 mini, let's just say a Pekka, and really nothing else, it's really kind of useless to even throw the 3 elixir. It's pretty much you're throwing a 3 elixir for 1 shot of a Pekka, and then the Pekka just walking by. Yeah, it does a little bit of damage to the Pekka, but is it really worth it to have that mini slot? That's really the kind of, question. Pekka's everywhere right now with the unstoppability. It really doesn't slow down the Pekka that much. It just kind of does some damage to it. It's pretty good mini, but right now it's just struggling just a little bit in the meta. Coming in at number 3, we have the Dark Goblin. The pros of the Dark Goblin is it can ramp up and completely take over a match. I think every single person here has seen a Dark Goblin completely go off and carry an entire match, and it's like, how do I even counter this? This is completely broken, and that is why the Dark Goblin is at number 3. If the ability to carry, it's one of the only 3-cost carries right now currently in the meta, and that is why it has to be so high up. The cons of the Dark Goblin, however, is it takes a while to ramp up. Right now, there are so many Fishermen, Princes, Bowlers that can completely slow down a Dark Goblin from ramping up into this meta. If they put a Fisherman where your Dark Goblin is, the only real way you have to counter that is either a Prince in the front line, your own, or you need an Ice Wizard to ice block your Dark Goblin, which just causes it forever to ramp up. And that's why the Dark Goblin is just very, very difficult to get the ramp up that you want every game and to completely carry. There has to be things in the meta to keep him in check, and right now there's a lot inside of the meta, especially Clash abilities that are completely keeping the Dark Goblin in check and not making him completely take over the game. He's one of those minis that are either a super carry or unfortunately not a hard enough carry to win you a match. And for right now, it's kind of one of those in between every other game kind of scenarios where it's either great or it's not that great. Coming in at number 2, the second best mini in the 3-cost mini section is the Bowler. The pros of the Bowler can stun minis and deal damage to them. The biggest thing that you could do with the Bowler is you could stun a bandit from a Wave Master being thrown over to you, and that can actually stun it for a very long time, allowing you to position your troops in the correct formation so that the bandit doesn't get energy and the bandit really doesn't get off a super chain over and over again. This is very, very important with the Bowler, and that is why it is so strong right now in the meta. Not to mention, it could, stun Archer Queens, it can stun other heroes and minis as well and make them reposition and have to deal with the Bowler. The cons of the Bowler is sometimes it can be countered by just a Fisherman or a Prince, and it kind of becomes useless as the Clash's ability does not go up. So if you're heavily investing in your Bowler, let's just say if you're putting 6 Elixir into your Bowler and they counter it with either 4 or 3, and your Bowler doesn't really do anything, it's kind of an Elixir loss for you. Yes, this doesn't happen very, very often, but when it does happen, the Bowler becomes useless, and then it's kind of one of those minis where it takes up a mini slot in your deck and it doesn't do anything to your opponent. That's why personally I play the Bowler as a pocket mini that I throw out there in a later round, and sometimes I throw it into a position where he can't counter it, or he has to know the exact position that I play it in order to counter it. Coming in at number 1, we have, everybody knows, the Fisherman. The Fisherman is number 1 on this list for pretty much this reason and this reason alone. It can stop certain Clash abilities, which is absolutely massive. It can stop Clash abilities, which is really going to be a huge factor. It stops Spear Goblins, it stops Bowlers. It really does stop a lot of Clash abilities that are currently in the game, and that is a very big reason why the Fisherman is number 1. It can also reposition backline carry troops, which is another reason why it is number 1. It can reposition Magic Archers, it can reposition Dark Goblins, it can also make your opponent put an Ice Wizard next to their Magic Archer or next to their Dark Goblin, making it 3.5 second stun on their own troops. So you're pretty much getting a free 3.5 second stun just because you have a Fisherman. That's massive. Also, there's just so many things that you can do with the Fisherman that they have to counter, which is why the Fisherman is the best 3-cost mini inside of Clash Mini. The cons, though, however, of the Fisherman are is that Ice Wizard can completely stop the hook pull from happening. This can be very, very frustrating, but they do need to invest 4 Elixir in order to do this, and if you just put 3 Elixir onto the field, it is still a net gain, but your Fisherman is still not going to do really anything after the pull happens, so you do kind of have a lost mini there. It also can be stopped by Prince if you put it in the front line. So if you put the Fisherman in the front lines to counter a Dark Goblin or a Magic Archer all the way in the back, a Prince could be put in the front line from your opponent. That can completely neutralize and take care of your Fisherman before the hook goes off, and that can cause some problems for you. I hope you guys enjoyed this 3-cost tier list. 4-cost tier list is coming tomorrow. Let me know in the comments below if you guys like this style of a tier list, but we're going to get back to you tomorrow for the next video.